So we are going to try to stick to sports here today. However, we are going to try something new. And as I just hit record, I see my ski boots and my ski poles are behind me. One of the many lovely production values that you get when I get to record from my basement. I guess I should tell why. Me and the wife are going to Vail on Friday. We're going to finally do some skiing as we finally got some snow here in Colorado. I'm also going to be setting up a GoPro, and I'm going to try to get some good film, being that I'm setting up a GoPro, which probably means I'm going to eat shit and probably really hurt myself. So I'm going to put that up on my Instagram page. Go ahead and check me out on Instagram at The Social Spreader. Working on becoming a little bit more 2022 with my Instagram page, as I do need to kind of up my Insta game, as they say. But so to kind of, also welcome to The Social Spreader on a Tuesday. So we're gonna try to piggyback off of yesterday, kind of turning over a new leaf. So we are gonna try something new here today. If you've been listening and you're one of the millions upon millions of people that do listen, it's no secret that I do struggle with what to talk about. For instance, I would love to get into the weeds of the Newsweek article that came out stating that Marjorie Taylor Greene holds stock in 3 companies that are responsible for the vaccine, yet she spent the last 18 months telling people not to get the vaccine, and people who do get the vaccine, even her orange fascist leader, are communists. Would really love to get into the weeds about that. I would also love to discuss how right I was about Madison Cawthorn, the alt-right leader of the growing American Taliban, who said women are nothing more than earthen vessels designed to carry and birth children. Turns out his wife divorced him. Shocking. The list goes on, but that's what Weekly Reflections into Hell is for. That's a segment that I've actually gotten some pretty positive feedback on. And I just want to make sure this is an FYI again for the millions upon millions of people who are tuning in. That is a segment that I've designed that's trying to be informative, and I'm also trying to put some sort of a funny spin on the utter chaos that is happening in this country. So instead of doing those things, what I'm going to try to do is I want to try to find intersections where sports and society reach each other, because I'm never going to be, and I will argue until I am out of breath with people who say shut up and dribble. But I also know that this is a show, this is a podcast designed to talk about sports, trying to find winners, trying to get some extra money in anybody's pockets, trying to get people a little bit more informed, a little bit more educated on how sports gambling works, what teams are good against the spread. I know that. And so that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to find social and sports intersections so I can kind of dip my toe in the stuff that I truly love, that I truly like, and that I want to talk about. And also not turning off a lot of people by talking about the endless shit that continues to go on in this country. So I am going to try to find 3 topics that I can talk about that are kind of intersected with sports and society. And because I am, to this day, an incredible 3-point shooter, that's why I am choosing 3. And then, of course, we're going to do some lines. There's a heavy night tonight in college hoops. The association has, I believe, 6 games. And so what I want to do is kind of jump right into that. And again, to kind of piggyback on what I said yesterday about self-care, mental health, physical health, I want to start with Antonio Brown. I don't really want to get into much of the spectacle that he's making of himself. That's not really my lane. I don't doubt that AB needs help. He needs professional mental help. And I understand that as a quote-unquote sports fan, your allegiances and your upbringing with who your sports fandom turned you into a fan of, that can kind of be a slippery slope. But for all the people that are coming forth saying they're concerned for him and concerned for his well-being and his mental state of mind, including and especially Tom Brady, it sure would be nice if those same people had an ounce, one iota of concern for any of the women that have come forward against him. And if you're struggling with a place to start with that, if you have a problem with the Me Too movement, one, I do think that's a you problem, and two, you probably need to take a look in the mirror. But if you are struggling with a place to start with that, how about start with the mother of his children, who he threw a bag of dicks at on video? Whether or not you think he's a good football player at this very point in time is irrelevant. He obviously needs help. I understand that. We have seen what CTE can do to people. We can see what this sport can do to people. But I am not a one-dimensional sports fan. I am actually, in a lot of ways, not a sports fan. I like to try to make money off of physical and sporting events. That's it. I have no allegiances whatsoever. Not to a team, not to a franchise. You will never see me wear a jersey. You will never see another man's name on my back. I think man worship is incredibly weird and incredibly fucked up in a lot of ways. And so that's something that maybe separates me, that makes me a little bit unique, one of the numerous things. But you will always see me. I don't want to see anybody suffer. And I think Antonio Brown, from a mental health standpoint, is suffering. I also think he has caused a lot of women to suffer. And that's where my sympathy for him ends. Hard stop. Hard stop. Whether or not you think he's a good wide receiver or whatnot, he is. He was one of the greatest of all time. And I've kind of shied away from player analysis. A lot of people have asked me to do it just because they're curious. So I'm going to try right now. And we're going to use the two quarterbacks that were on last night. Again, I could go on and on about Antonio Brown and mental health, but at the end of the day, it'd be really nice to see people who are concerned for him have one fucking ounce of concern for the women that have come forward against him, including the mother of his children. And so when I look at the two quarterbacks that were playing Monday Night Football, and boy, are we going to get into that in just a second. History has shown that nobody knows shit. No, the quote unquote experts who I'm gonna watch film, man. I'm gonna dissect film and show you that a 3-step drop and a 5-step drop. Oh my God, just jab a fork into my retina when I listen to people who try to make themselves sound smart like that. Hell, even experts like Bill Polian told Lamar Jackson to move to wide receiver. But in terms of the two quarterbacks that we saw last night, one thing to me is crystal clear. Roethlisberger did little to nothing to take care of himself. Tom Brady is what, 4 or 5 years older than him? And if Roethlisberger would have given 2 shades of a shit about health and being smart with his physical makeup, with his frame and his arm strength, he could still be playing at an elite level. However, I don't think he should even be in the league. The fact that this guy on my shirt is still unemployed for taking a knee during a bullshit, antiquated song that no other professional has to listen to before they start work. Football players, their office is the football field. Your office as an accountant is your office. Do you have to listen to the national anthem before you start working? No. If you're a lawyer, do you have to listen to the national anthem before you try a case? No. It is absurd. It is absolutely absurd that someone like Roethlisberger, Roethlisberger is still playing, because if he did what he did, and look, it's all speculative at this point because we didn't have camera phones at that time, but if he had done what he did to those women in a time that's technologically advanced than that, he wouldn't be in the league. He'd be Deshaun Watson. He would not be in the league. And the fact that he still is roaming around like a fucking immobile tree who's not taking care of himself, who can't run, who trips over his own feet, it's over. And it should have been over years ago, even though, 3 years ago he passed for like 4,000 yards. Again, Antonio Brown was on his team. But speaking of playing at an elite level, Mayfield was not. But here's the thing about him. And this might be a popularly unpopular opinion. I don't really know how that works anymore. But in a sport of quote unquote tough guys, where you're supposed to fight through the pain, play through the pain, line up for the guy next to you, yada yada yada. What Mayfield what he did to his career, he committed career suicide this year. He got hurt in week 3, and he should not have been playing. He should have sat out, and then he wouldn't have cost himself generational wealth on the next contract that he has, which is what he did this year. Because it's unbelievable the player that we've seen him be and the player that he is now. It's not even close. And I understand you want to be there for your teammates, you want to fight through the pain, yada, yada, yada. But for someone coming into the final year of his contract to do what he did, he cost himself generational wealth in his next contract. And I do not know what Cleveland is going to do. I really honestly don't. And speaking of not knowing, when is Cleveland going to change the name from the worst name in sports history? The Browns? The Cleveland Shits? Because you had an extremely egotistical, narcissistic owner who wanted to name the team after him, and your colors are orange and white? Anyway, I had said something earlier in regard to Monday Night Football. The crew that they have working right now is perfect with 2 guys. Brian Greasy is the worst commentator ever. Period. Hard stop. And only because of the nepotism of old white men does he have a job in the Monday Night Football booth. It is atrocious to listen to him. Only he and only he could make me want to press mute on the Monday Night Football broadcast. He is so bad. And why is he in there? Because his father won a Super Bowl with the Miami Dolphins, where he passed 7 times. 7 attempts in a Super Bowl. Is that why? Is nepotism really that big? Never mind. I've kind of already answered that. But I never knew that I could want to hit mute on Monday Night Football until they decided to put Brian Greasy in there. He is the worst commentator of all time. Let's do some lines. So there are a lot of games in college hoops. There's one game in the association I would look at. Cleveland's at home, but I never thought I'd say this. Ricky Rubio is out, and he was doing a lot of stuff for that team that made them a juggernaut against the spread. It might be a good time to start to fade them. They're playing Memphis. Memphis hasn't lost against the spread in a while. They've been doing well, but we're going to do some rapid-fire college hoops here tonight. There's some interesting matchups, and of course, I believe there are 4 matchups of ranked teams. And so naturally, if you've been following this show, as you're one of the millions of people that do, we're going to start with North Alabama against Lipscomb. That sounded really bad. Lipscomb, the Bisons. Why are we talking about this game, you ask? Because North Alabama is 7-6 and Lipscomb is 7-8. We're talking about this because of this. North Alabama's 5-3-1 against the spread. Lipscomb's 3-9. They don't cover, and they're favored by 7. This is one of those instances where if a team is good against the spread, I look at that as an edge, especially if they're playing against a team that's not. And that's what we have here. Take a look at North Alabama. I personally feel the game of the night, and I know this is weird, of a night that's got some ranked teams that are matched up, is Ohio against Akron. And the reason why is because I truly believe that the winner of, well, maybe not this game, it's still kind of early, but the MAC always seems to come out with 11, 12, or 13 seeds that are always very, very a very popular pick when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Akron's at home. They're favored by 2. They're 7-3 against the spread. They're 8-3 straight up. Ohio's 10-2 straight up, but they're 5-6 against the spread. If I had to sit out a game and simply watch one, this is it. I know that it's weird. I tend to go, if I can get home in points, that's something that I like to look at, simply because these are two teams that know each other really well. Akron's been playing the last 5. Each of these teams are undefeated. They are 5-0 each. The one common opponent over the last month that they've had is Marshall. Ohio played them at home and they won by 10. Akron played them at home and they won by 2. I also see the over-under is 132. I might lean the over on this one just because they've been putting, Akron's been scoring close to 80 almost every game, and so has Ohio, and 132 seems a little low. But then again, that is one of those instances where someone knows something that I don't, and I tend to kind of stay away from those. But I do think that's a really good game. Akron 2 points at home, 7-3 against the spread, I think is a good lean. We're finally getting to one of the ranked matchups, Kentucky at LSU. Now, LSU for me this year has been fantastic. They're 10-3 against the spread. They've been an ATM machine. They did lose to Auburn by 15. That was one of their rare losses against the spread, but they're favored by 2 at home. So remember the rule. When it comes to basketball, home team automatically gets 4. Football, home team automatically gets 3. And so they're favored by 2. So Kentucky, the odds makers are obviously saying that Kentucky is the superior team. Man, now that I say that out loud, I might stay away. I was thinking about going LSU, but man, something stinks about that line at 2. It smells like poo. But then again, LSU is it's a minus 140 on the money line. They're 10-3 against the spread. Kentucky's 7-6 against the spread. Kentucky's 11-2 straight up. The last time Kentucky played on the road, they lost to Notre Dame. You know what? I'm going to go with my instinct on this one. Saddle up, partner. We're going to go with LSU. I think that's a good lean. I don't think Kentucky's the same team on the road. And I think coming off a loss, I think LSU is kind of looking to get back into it. And again, they're 12-1 straight up, 10-3 against the spread. One of the things that I had said earlier is if I can finding value is really what I'm about. If I can find a quality team, preferably at home and points, I tend to lean that way. Texas is playing Kansas State. And as a graduate of the fictitious Birds from Kansas, I've went to Manhattan. It's an interesting college town, Manhattan, Kansas. Yes, there's a Manhattan, Kansas. There's also a Pittsburgh, Kansas, and a Syracuse, Kansas. Obviously, people in Kansas could not find any other any unique names, so they just had to recycle the ones that are on the East Coast. K-State is 8-4 straight up, 6-5 against the spread. Texas is 11-2 straight up, 6-7 against the spread. K-State's an 8-point underdog at home. And in fact, Texas is minus 360 on the money line. The over-under is 122. So 8 points is a lot when you're talking about an over-under of 122. Do I think that they're going to win? Not necessarily. The only 2 games that K-State's lost the last month, they lost by a point to Marquette and lost by 2 to Oklahoma. 2 pretty good teams, and these two teams seem matched up pretty well. I like 8 points in my pocket at home in Manhattan. I'm gonna go, and Texas hasn't played on the road in over a month, actually. So I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna take the points with K-State at home. Oklahoma is traveling to Baylor, and boy, it's really tough to go against those Bears, man. They are so good. They are so tough in every facet of the game, including against the spread. They are 8-4-1 against the spread. They actually didn't cover their last game. They were at Iowa State. They did not cover. They were 8-point favorites. They only won by 5. And I think this is a good spot for them because they are coming home. The last 3 games at home, I mean, they held Villanova to 36 points for crying out loud, and they crushed them. I don't think Oklahoma's that good because they haven't played anybody yet. The one team that they did play, they lost to Butler. They did. They lost to Butler. So I think, and plus, even though Oklahoma is 11-2 straight up, they're 6-7 against the spread, so they don't cover very often. And they are a heavy underdog. The money line right now for Oklahoma is plus 480. That's insane. And so I'm probably going to lean Baylor at home. The spread right now is at 12. It seems like a lot of points, but for this team, it's really not. And I see that Oklahoma had a hard time scoring 70 against Alcorn State. So here's some fun fact for you. The one team that these 2 teams have in common is they played Alcorn State. Now, Alcorn State has been sneaky good against the spread, so don't think that Alcorn State is this trash team. But Oklahoma scored 72 and Baylor scored 94. When I see a common foe like that, I really don't look at the score. I look at what those 2 teams did in terms of what they scored against them, and that would easily cover 12. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going with the Bears. The next game, obviously with the loaded slate we have, I'm looking at Holy Cross. The Crusaders, which is an interesting name with a school called Holy Cross, and the Loyola Maryland Greyhounds. Why, you ask? Why are we looking at this stupid game, Kevin? Why are we doing that? Because Holy Cross is 2-11, and against teams that are in Division I, they're 2-9 against the spread. Loyola, on the other hand, is 6-4 against the spread. They're a 6-6 team, but they are playing a team that's really bad. And the closest that this team, Holy Cross, has come to any team that's worthy of Loyola or in the same arena as Loyola is 15 points, and you only need to cover 10. So I'm going Loyola at 10. Now, again, learn the difference between putting money on a team or putting money against a team. This is a bet against Holy Cross. That's what I'm doing. They're 2-9 against the spread. They're a shit team. So try to win some money because they're so shit. And to go off of that, we're looking at NC State and Virginia Tech. Okay, VTech 8-5. They started really hot. They've kind of come down to earth a little bit, but then again, they've played Wake Forest, who's really good. They played Wake Forest pretty tough. It kind of got away from them at the end of the game. The Flyers from Ohio, they lost to Dayton at Dayton. That's 5 points. They lost by 5. They pushed. That's a good push. They also played Duke and Cameron tough. Okay, NC State has lost 5 in a row. They've played a couple teams tough, but they're 3-11 against the spread. They're 7-7 overall, so they started 7-2, and they've lost 5 straight. I think they're going into a pretty tough situation where they thought they had Florida State beat at home. Ended up losing by 2, didn't cover. Again, they're 3-11 against the spread. Virginia Tech's 8-5, and you need them to cover 10. I'm going VTech on this one. I think NC State is in a world of trouble right now. They're just two teams going in opposite directions, and VTech is actually sneaky good, and I see them actually coming into this with kind of a chip on their shoulder because they had Duke. They played Duke really well, and so I'm gonna go VTech to cover 10. One of the surprise teams this year is Colorado State. I think Fort Collins is about an hour or so north of me. They are 10-0 and they're 6-3 against the spread, and they're playing their in-state rival Air Force. And Air Force is coming off losses against Montana, Arkansas State, and Tarleton. Now Air Force at home is good, and that's why they're 7-5 against the spread. They're also 8-4 straight up, but 3 out of their last 4 games were on the road, and they lost those 3. And now they're playing Colorado State, who is rested, to say the least. And they've beaten some very quality teams. And they're favored by 20. Look, someone has to cover this game. I think Colorado State's sneaky good. I think they're going to be a very tough out in the NCAA tournament. And so I think they're going to cover. And right now, they're a minus 4,000 favorite on the money line. So they're going to win this game. And I do think that it's going to get ugly because they don't like Air Force. It's an in-state rivalry. Now, on the flip side of that coin, a rivalry game can sometimes be perfect for the underdog just because these two teams hate each other. And so they're going to give max effort. But at the end of the day, I don't think Air Force is really that good, and I do think Colorado State is good. So I think they're going to win huge. To kind of continue on the home team with points at value, KU is traveling to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's catching 7 points at home. This is going to be KU's first road game, and as I said, as a graduate of the fictitious animals from Lawrence, Allen Fieldhouse is not only a relic, and it's not only an armpit, but it's really only where they win. And they had a tough time beating George Mason and Stephen F. Austin. And I'm not saying that Oklahoma State will win, although 220 on the money line is awfully juicy. All I know is, as a graduate of this school, I've seen them struggle at Oklahoma State. It's a pit. Not an armpit. It's actually in the ground. Like, it's a pit. So I'm going to go ahead and take the points with Oklahoma State as well. The other game that I'm looking at, the last game, is Virginia against Clemson. These two teams played, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, and Clemson wiped the floor with them. Clemson's actually sneaky good. They're 9-4 straight up, 8-4-1 against the spread. Virginia is not who they are. Is not who they used to be, and who they used to be is the only number 1 seed that lost to a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now, the over/under is 122. They scored 117 the last time that they played. I'm not interested in that. Clemson beat them by 17, and they're only favored by 3, and they're at home. So I'm guessing the odds makers think Virginia's gonna come with some kind of a revenge, but I just don't see it. Because I do think Clemson is the superior team. So I'm gonna go ahead and swallow the points with Clemson at home. So whatever, all these games, all these things, all of this, against the spread analysis that I offer, trash or treasure. You either lean with me or you fade me. It's completely your call. Either way, good luck with your bets. I hope that I've helped in some way, shape, or form. I know last night we were firmly at 500. I'm pretty confident to say that I'll never cost you money. I might not make you money, but I'm not going to cost you money. So, good luck with your bets. Thanks for tuning in on a Tuesday.